Hello, everyone, and welcome to another brand new episode of The Jedi Way here on the Outlaw Nation channel. I am the Outlaw and also Rocha Fett here. One of your hosts, John Rocha, joined as always by the lady from Chicago over there, Laura Kelly. How are you, Laura?
Doing wonderful, John. How are you tonight?
Good. You look like you've got a Chicago Bulls Star Wars jersey on. I guess you got the sleeveless thing, got the colors, the red and the black mixing in. I'm buying what you're selling there.
There's always a theme. No, it's just Vader and 3PO, I think. So it's not quite the Bulls, but now that I think about it, I don't think I have any Bulls gear.
Wow. No.
Yeah, I've got some Bears stuff for some weird reason. Yeah, I don't know. Go figure. I'm from Kansas City, so I tend to cheer for their teams.
Oh, you're a Royals fan and a Chiefs fan. Respect. I respect.
Sure.
Well,
sure. Let's call me a sports fan. Let's pretend it'll be fun.
But we're getting into today. We thought we'd sit down and have a fun conversation about the first 3 episodes of The Mandalorian and the idea of Mandalore and what we're discovering more and more about the culture of the Mandalorians and about what's going on and when this is set in terms of the time in Star Wars history. We've had the first 3 episodes roll through here, chapters 9, 10, and 11, certainly 11 being a massive episode with Bo-Katan coming in now, 2 new Mandalorians being introduced. Apparently the Night Owls are letting dudes in now. So there's a lot of interesting things to explore here. And then finding out that the Mandalorian is part of a religious sect or cult, according to Bo-Katan. This is through Bo-Katan's eyes, by the way, Children of the Watch. So that puts a whole new a spin on his history and his story. So we're just going to talk about the first 3 episodes of the season, have a little fun breaking all of this down. Laura, what's your overall impression so far of the first 3 episodes?
First 3 episodes have fully won me over. I am fully on board with season 2 of The Mandalorian. I think they're killing it. Yeah. I feel like I've seen a lot of maybe not arguments, but points made that some of these episodes feel like filler. I totally understand where people are coming from on that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, we get a lot of these episodes where like Din Djarin has a mission. He's got some objective he needs to accomplish and he gets distracted. And that seems to be it's a recurring theme in this show where he's, ultimately he needs to find other Mandalorians so that he can have them guide him to the next, the next chapter of the story, which is hopefully to hand over, or I guess hopefully in his mind to hand over the baby. I don't know if I actually want to see that. I would actually prefer they stay together personally. But I can also get where people are coming from. We're not getting a ton of progression in the actual like overall storyline very quickly so far. It's been pretty slow moving in terms of where we started in episode 1 and where we are now. But we have information. So the assumption is that at some point we're going to, maybe get to see I guess we should probably say it's like full spoilers out here.
Oh yeah,
like we've already mentioned Bo-Katan and everything, but the fact that we've got a name drop for Ahsoka Tano, the assumption is that we're going to see her at some point soon, or some point in this season. So, but overall, I'm super enjoying the season. I'm really, really liking it, and the fact that we got to see Bo-Katan. We'll get into this, I guess, when we get to episode 3. But that was just like. Oh, as a Star Wars fan, that was it. That was the ultimate. So super happy so far. How about you? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I don't have a problem with the fact that it's like, taking its time where it's going. I'm spending time with the Mandalorian and the child. I'm not in a rush, and other people seem to be in a rush to have all this stuff played out and connected and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, I'm cool. They're laying a nice groundwork. They're taking their time. You got Cobb Vanth in the first episode, which was really great. Kind of a minor character in the literary books there, and seeing him come to life with a bit of an adjusted backstory and a great performance by Timothy Olyphant. And look, as a man who has good hair, Timothy Olyphant's hair is to be worshipped. My God, as soon as he took that helmet off, I was like, man, now that's hair, son. That is incredible hair. We also apparently, possibly, maybe got Boba Fett at the end there with Tamora Morrison with no hair at the end, watching all this stuff happening there with the child and with Mandalorian, how they destroyed the Krayt Dragon. So we heard, I think the Krayt Dragon swallowed the pit, and so maybe that's how Boba Fett got out. We don't know. The Rancor pit, rather. We don't know if that's what happened. We'll find out, I guess, at some point if that's how Boba Fett got it, and if that's even Boba Fett. Then the next chapter 10, The Passenger, a lot of people thought was a bit of a filler, but I thought it was kind of fun to see Peyton Reed stretching out as a director his horror muscles a little bit and having a little fun playing around with that, and the combo and evocative nature of it, of Alien or Aliens and Blade Runner and a couple other things. A lot of fun. Frog Lady. And then the third episode, chapter 11, the heiress, as you said, that's the one that's like boom. But like the build to the heiress is great. And that's what a whole season is supposed to do, is to get you into a place where you're spending some time, laying a little bit of groundwork, and then boom. If every episode was boom, 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 eventually that would be your baseline, and it would be even harder to impress you. So I like the fact that they're just taking their time and rolling through everything and giving us some more backstory on the Mandalorian.
Exactly. It's funny that you bring up Boba Fett, because it's like we've gotten to a point where I'm already like, oh my God, I'm so excited that was Bo-Katan. Oh my God, I'm so excited we're going to see Ahsoka. I totally kind of forgot about the whole like Boba Fett thing. I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to have to like circle back to that eventually and address whatever is happening over on Tatooine.
Right.
But the Boba Fett thing I think is going to be interesting, because it's like we have this, this Mandalorian, Boba Fett, I guess, if you want to call him that. I think it's debatable when he was like raised on Camino and created in the lab, and his only like touch point for Mandalorian culture was his father, who he only knew till he was 10 years old or something. Yeah. And so it's like, can you really call him a Mandalorian if I guess, if the Mandalorians aren't a race, it's a creed.
Right.
Where is Boba Fett in terms of where he stands with the creed? I would be curious to circle back to that. I assume that that's something that they will come back to at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, what are you thinking? Do you think maybe like episode 4, or I guess chapter 12 comes out this Friday, will maybe be something to do with that?
Well, I think chapter 12 is going to be, obviously bringing back Cara Dune and Grief Karga. I think because the saying, the logline reads rejoins old allies for a new mission. So I think this is going to be one of those filler episodes. No way we get Ahsoka next episode, in my opinion. I think they're going to wait till the next episode, which is chapter 13. That's the one that Dave Filoni is directing. And since Dave Filoni was, created Ahsoka Tano, I think he wants to be the director who brings Ahsoka Tano up onto the screen live action wise. And so I think we're essentially going to get it, because once again, take a little bit of a break in the next episode, then boom, the huge surprise in the other episode. And that to me is fine. And they're going to I think they're laying the groundwork here for a final battle where Cobb Vanth with Bo-Katan, with the two other Mandalorians with Bo-Katan, with possibly Boba Fett or whoever that may be, and Ahsoka Tano are all coming together against Moff Gideon. That's what I think. We're getting introduced to these warrior characters throughout. He's not meeting many pacifists, so he's meeting all of them so that they eventually will come together in some cross purposes across storylines where they all have to band together against Moff Gideon and that Darksaber, and where that might lead. Because we just got our first Moff Gideon appearance this season in a hologram on that ship with Titus Welliver. So we haven't seen him that much this season. So I think they're just building the groundwork until later on in the season. What do you feel about that?
Well, you were talking about all the characters from different, time periods and different, all the different warriors coming together, and I was having flashes of the rise of Skywalker and the Battle of Exegol. So I'm like, "Ooh, let's hope that it's maybe executed just a little better than that."
I think it will be.
I'm going to remain optimistic because, like I said, I am having a ton of fun with this season so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's actually you blew my mind a little bit with that prediction too, because I haven't really given any thought to like, oh yeah, how is Cobb Vanth going to tie into the finale, if you will, at all? And I think that would be really, I like to think that we haven't seen the last of Timothy Olyphant. He was so good and such a fan favorite, I think, so far in season 2. Even if we don't see him this season, I think it's, we're pretty confident we'll see him again, which is great.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw something out there, and I don't want to be controversial because this is a show about uplifting, being positive and fun about Star Wars, but we'd be remiss not to mention the Gina Carano stuff that is happening off screen, offset in her real life, and some of the tweets and what have you. And I wonder, and I'm just putting it out there, and I may be crazy, and Lord knows I've said crazy things in the past, but I wonder if we're headed towards a Cara Dune death. That it had already been scripted because that's why she's doing the things that she's doing, because she knows it's not going to cost her the job anyway because they've killed her off. So I wonder if down the road in the final battle, which I think is coming, and again, I could be crazy, could be wrong, the final battle that's coming, I think Cara Dune will have a hero's death or a noble death, and will still remain in the minds of so many people afterwards who want to still appreciate the character. And that's, you're right, as your own human being, you have your own journey with what she's saying and what your feelings are about it. That's your right. But I think that's what I think we're leading to at the end of this season, is her dying in the final battle in some way. And that's why she doesn't mind sending all these tweets out that possibly alienate the fan base, alienate Disney, put her in some hot water and whatever. So I don't know. What do you think I'm crazy?
No, I think that's a fair prediction, actually. But at the same time, I think that's the best case scenario of what we can expect at the same, because I think we're already in a bad situation where nobody at Disney, Star Wars, Lucasfilm is addressing it. And I have a huge problem with that.
That's a good point.
It's totally predictable that they wouldn't say anything. Right. It makes total sense, totally follows the MO. But that doesn't make it any less upsetting for me. And I think that's kind of the best thing that we can hope for, is that she's already done with them and doesn't really have to hold back anymore. And that's why she doesn't have any hesitation saying the things she's saying. Because I don't have any memory of any of this information being out there at Star Wars Celebration when the Mandalorian panel happened and she was announced and everyone cheered. And I'm like, if she was saying all these things, like, it was, I guess, a little bit more on the down low. And the fact that she's not holding back is, it's not my favorite, but
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I've followed her for a number of years because I was an MMA fan, and so and even what was that show? It was an old show where they fought American Gladiators. She was one of the American Gladiators. Used to watch that show. So yeah, I followed her on social media. Fun. She's fun to follow at the time, and then. Because she was really humble about her beginnings, about what she wanted to do. She really seemed like one of these underdog characters, underdog people rather, that you can cheer for to get to a place. And when they resuscitated her career by pulling her out of those straight-to-DVD terrible action thriller movies to put her onto something like this, such a high-profile project like this, I cheered for it. Was happy for her. But now seeing where she's going, I think it's best to kind of move on from it. I'm not trying to cancel her. I'm just saying just move on from it, because Disney, at least on the face, is supposed to radiate acceptance of everyone and acceptance of things going forward, of everyone's beliefs or sexual preferences going forward. And especially Star Wars, which is a very, very diverse franchise. I think there's no room for that kind of toxicity in Star Wars, for sure, at least amongst the heroes, right? I mean, you can have that with the villains, but not amongst the heroes. So that's just my 2 cents.
And that begs the question of, like, if we're gonna take away that character, how are we gonna replace the sort of female energy that I think the show is still very much lacking? I mean, the first 2 episodes, I mean, I remember sitting and finishing episode 2 and being like, we're now
Laura,
far away.
Are you telling me the frog lady is not enough? Are you telling me frog lady is not
enough?
She's
not enough for me. She's not enough for me, John, because she is voiced by a man. Like, that's not.
That's true. That's a good point. It's a good point.
D. Bradley Baker famously voiced all the clones in the Clone Wars and is now voicing Frog Lady, which is fine. Like, he did a good job, but I'm like, that does not count as female energy. That doesn't work for me. But yeah, I would like to know, where are we gonna, replace that piece of the show, and not even replace it, but like improve upon it would be great, because it's, I mean, like I said, first 2 episodes of the show, we had like 2 women that had speaking roles, and it was, it's not enough for me. So I need a little bit more in that department, and maybe hopefully there's something in the works there. As like a replacement cast member for the show. It would be really great if it was Bo-Katan. Just saying.
God, Bo-Katan, that would be so interesting. What if it's Ahsoka Tano for a whole season? Ahsoka and the Mandalorian. Is the stuff with Sabine over? Are we getting Sabine Wren? I mean, a lot of people speculated that Sasha Banks Mercedes, I forget her last name, Vanador, I think, the actual name of Sasha Banks was possibly going to be Sabine. I never believed that, because Sasha's very, very green to acting, and so seeing her play one of essentially Bo-Katan's Mandalorian Wars is a better place for her to fit. So now you're questioning, well, if we're going to Ahsoka, probably, as I stated, possibly in the 5th chapter of this season, or 5th episode of this season, Do we see Sabine with her as well? And do we have an end to the Ezra mission? Is there an end to that mission? What do you think?
Oh, it's a huge question, and I
Yeah.
am dying to know. But at the same time, I have a feeling it's either going to be left totally unclear or
Mm.
it's going to be made clear that that part of the story hasn't been resolved yet. Because I think that from what I understand, when the Timothy Zahn books were being talked about, and when those were coming out of the new
Mhm.
Thrawn content that we've been
Right.
getting, he wanted to take that story and like tell it in book form, or at least mention or address it or something.
Right.
From
Right.
what I
Right.
understand, I can't remember what the source is on this, but I remember it reading about it at somewhere, and I remember Dave Filoni telling him no, like, and like that being totally off the table for a book,
Wow.
because that's a story I think that Dave Filoni wants to tell.
Right.
So I have a feeling that that would be its own greater story, maybe in a spin-off, or maybe it's in this rumored Star Wars Rebels sequel series that we're going to
Mhm.
get.
Right.
That seems like the more likely place to have it. So I have a feeling, I get the feeling that we're not going to see Sabine,
Okay.
because if we did, that would give us a lot more clear answer of where they are in the search for Ezra.
True.
'Cause at this point, we know that they took off on that mission about 5 years ago.
Right. Right.
We don't know much more about it
Would
beyond
you
that.
see? Would you be okay with a live action Ezra? There were rumors that they were looking for one earlier last year.
You know, that
Maybe.
Raul Coley on Twitter has really taken a liking to teasing the Star Wars fandom. So I think he actually like did have to say recently, like, I'm not playing Ezra Bridger. I'm just having like some fun. Some people had said that he would be a good age and like a good actor to play him, which I
Right.
fully agree with. But I love that he's a big enough Star Wars fan that he's, either had already had knowledge of it or has
Right.
since
Right.
dove into Star Wars Rebels with full force, if you will. Um,
Yeah.
but I would love to see that. I think it'd be really cool. My problem with Star Wars Rebels, as much as I loved it, is that Ezra was always really annoying. He was never a character that I really identified with.
Yeah.
I always preferred the sort of other characters in the show that were on the sides.
Yeah.
But that, I think it would be really cool to see an adult Ezra Bridger where he's more grown up, more mature, not as annoying as he was in the show. But that's personal opinion.
Right. No, I don't disagree with you. I was actually wondering what your feelings were about Ezra, because I didn't want to start a war between us, because I'm not the biggest fan of Ezra Bridger either as a character. And a couple of friends of mine, we would, after every episode of Star Wars Rebels, there would be the inevitable Twitter DMs between us on our personal DMs talking about how much of a waste it is for Ezra to be the chosen person in this series when it's clearly Sabine who should be leading everything and should be the chosen one, who should be all this stuff. Like, it just felt more natural for Sabine to be in charge of it. But that's the old trope where the man is the chosen one and the woman who really has all the skills has to teach the man and show the man, but she can never be the chosen one. It has to be the dude. And I'm glad that that's slowly, not slowly, but really quickly over the last few years has been broken in half. And more we're seeing women lead these franchises and what have you. And there's no difference. It's just great to see someone who's awesome, kicking ass and leading the franchise. So I wonder if maybe they're done with the mission, or they got distracted and don't want to find Ezra, or Ezra let it be known to them to leave him alone and he's doing his own thing, and maybe they walk away from it completely. But with Dave Filoni involved, I doubt that's what happens, but it could be something cool to just do and let Sabine and Ahsoka kind of go their own path. I'd be fine with that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think, that would be another sort of, I think, check mark for me, is if we were going to get a Sabine and Ahsoka led story.
Yeah.
That's going to be two strong female characters in charge, and sort of being the leads in a new show. And that's really exciting for me.
Yeah.
Especially someone like Ahsoka, who is so beloved by fans.
Mm-hmm.
And the possibility that Sabine could be played by the actress who voiced her, I think that's totally realistic. It would work really well.
Ty Sakari,
So the possibility of seeing that's really exciting. But I think kind of circling back to The Mandalorian, I think they really did do a good job in season in episode 3 of season 2.
Yeah.
Like being more conscious of bringing women into the story. And I don't, maybe that's because Bryce Dallas Howard like directed it, or maybe just because they had an idea of how they wanted this new trio of Mandalorians to come into play. But either way, I was much more pleased overall with episode 3, and I hope that sort of stays in motion.
Well, let's explore episode 3, because I mean, I imagine we're going to get something more with the frog people. I can't imagine that you make a big deal of the frog lady having to reunite with her frog man, them fertilizing the eggs that have not been eaten by Baby Yoda or the child, and seeing the child fertilized and born, and Baby Yoda playing with it. Like, that just seems too much screen time for something that isn't in some way going to bear fruit down the road. So I'm keeping an eye on that, or putting a pin on that in my mind in the periphery. But there was so much Mandalorian stuff that was introduced to us here in episode 3. Lauren, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because there's so much here with the history of Mandalore. There's so much. You've got the Night Watch. Is that right? The Night Watch. Is that correct? Am I right on that? Oh, no, Death Watch. Sorry. Death Watch. The Night Owls. We have so much involved here from the past, with Bo-Katan coming in, and what's going to happen here. Now we've got a Children of the Watch, which is supposedly a cult, and they're maybe, worshiping Mandalore, the great Mandalore. Like, what there's so much involved in here. What do you make of everything that was presented Mandalorian wise in episode 3?
Well, it was definitely eye-opening, and I love how it sort of branched out what we know about Mandalorian culture. Like, I've talked about this with Alice, where we sort of on Force Ghost, where we sort of like predicted, like, he's obviously a more orthodox Mandalorian, right. Like keeping the helmet on all the time. But I never would have ventured as far to guess that he was a member of a cult. That's so extreme. But I love that they brought that language into it. I just think it's really fascinating. And his whole impression of, like, nobody goes to Mandalore, the planet's cursed. Like, if anyone who goes there will die. It's like, what a weird thing for them to teach you. Like, that's, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of crazy. So I'm excited to see where this plays out. Now we have, like, I feel like we have so many different areas between the Clone Wars and in the Mandalorian, where we've learned so much about, like, the Mandalorian culture and how sort of widespread it is. And it's, I guess in that sense, it's like human culture, if you will. It's not that much different. But I think that this is they're world building in a way that I'm really excited about. How about you?
Yeah, definitely 1,000%. The Mandalorians have always been my favorite species in the or whatever you want to say, characters in the Star Wars franchise. I wasn't always a Luke guy or a Solo guy. Like, it was cool when you were a kid, but as you get older, like, I don't really feel that connection to them as strongly. It was Boba, and then by extension, the other Mandalorians that have come through the multiple media, like Clone Wars and Rebels, and in the books, and now here in the Mandalorian. This is my jam. If the Jedi are a version of the Samurai, I would say the Mandalorians are a version of even higher level samurais who work in a certain way that are very clear about being warriors. Right? The Jedi is not supposed to pick up his lightsaber to attack, right? It's only for defense. But in the Mandalorians, clearly they create these weapons. They're a warrior culture. They're almost like Vikings or Norse, whatever you want to say, Norsemen. And that kind of vibe I've always gravitated to, And so I like that. They have a nobility. The good ones have a nobility to their warrior instincts, I would say. Yeah. It's as you do the history of Mandalore, clearly there have been several movements, several sects. There was even sects, sects. There's even, the pacifist time on Mandalore, led by Bo-Katan's sister. So you had these different approaches to how to lead this planet. And so I find the different versions of Mandalorians, or different groups of Mandalorians, very, very interesting. And now being introduced to a new one, the Children of the Watch. What is that all about? How are they connected? What does it mean? And this idea that you can't go back to the planet, maybe that's on purpose so that you stay kind of in your lane and devoted to this cult. Now, do we find out later that this has been something that he was kind of brainwashed or programmed to believe in. And now this whole cool thing that we were presented in season 1 of these people showing up to save him at the end there, to save the child, these other Mandalorians, what were they all in service of? And is this a lie? Is this a fallacy? Or is this something deeper and stronger in the culture of Mandalore, going back to the foundations of Mandalore in order to revitalize the planet and other Mandalorians? I don't know, because by the same token, Laura, we just got Bo-Katan, who is in a desperate, obsessive pursuit for that dark saber. So much so that she's pulling a knife on Titus Welliver, trying to get information and freaking out when he kills himself. So there seems to be two opposing forces here working to get in control of Mandalore and its people, possibly.
You know, you mentioned that about you talked about how Bo-Katan showed up on Trask, and it only just occurred to me, like, what a strange coincidence that is, that he had to be on his way to take this frog lady to this planet, which isn't en route to where he's supposed to be going. It's just a stop along the destination,
right,
or along the journey. And it is a really big coincidence that he just happens to run into 3 Mandalorians who are on the hunt for the dark saber.
Right.
It's weird timing. So I wonder if when we do circle back to Bo-Katan, which I think we will probably in this season, I would love to get a little bit more of, like, were they tracking him? Maybe, like, is it pure coincidence? Because I don't think so. But at the same time, they do have this mutual friend, if you will, in Moff Gideon, where he's on the run from him and she's on the hunt for him. So the triangle does exist there in a way.
Yeah.
But I would love for them to circle back to that. You also mentioned the pacifist movement in Mandalorian culture, which I would love to talk about, because in the Clone Wars, this is something that the Mandalorians really strove for, because they know that they're aware of the fact that they are, they've been stereotyped as being hot-headed warriors,
right.
who just want to fight each other. They're very self-aware of that fact. And so Duchess Satine leads this movement of pacifism on, I don't think it's the planet Mandalore. I think it's a different planet within their system. Or maybe I'm wrong, but she led that whole movement, and it was, that was a really big deal for her. And it ended up, in a way costing her life.
Yeah.
And then we kind of didn't hear much about that movement. So I kind of wonder, like, did that movement die with her? Did anybody else ever pick it up? We've been exploring all these different areas of the Mandalorian culture. It'd be interesting to get a little bit more history in that sense. So I kind of hope that we get a little bit more exposition happening between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan, because I need someone to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, and that's the mystery of the season, and that's also the brilliance of Filoni and Favreau in this show, that they throw just a little bit to keep you excited, a little bit to keep you talking about it, but don't reveal the full mystery just yet. Keep you excited, keep you interested, keep you wanting to come back every week. Just incredibly smart how they're doing that. And the armor, what's the armorers playing all this? Because, the armorers are the ones who understood how to use the Beskar to create the armor, how to fold it over to make it even at times impervious, some of the armor, to the lightsaber hits in the past. So, and they guarded their secrets of how to turn that into armor, how to turn Beskar into armor with their lives. And there was stuff in the past where the Empire made that deal with Mandalore to, buy the Beskar, and then eventually took it over in the Great Purge, which even the Great Purge we know a little bit about, but I don't think we know a lot about, where they took the Beskar out of the planet. The Empire did. And obviously Gideon was a part of that. Moff Gideon was a part of that. So there's stuff here to explore. And clearly, look, Bo-Katan has lost her sister. I don't know where her nephew is. You were talking about that. You were texting me about that as well. Like, where is that person? She thinks she's the only one left of her line. Is she? I don't know, but certainly she's lost people in this battle for control of Mandalore that were close to her. And so when the Night Elves came under the Death Watch, and there's a Pre Vizsla being beheaded in front of her, then her finding out her sister was killed by Maul. So twice Maul has killed people in her line. So there's so much here that is like fueling Bo-Katan as a warrior. Where is that going to lead to as well? So I have so many questions rolling through my mind about all of this that I'm excited to find out more as well.
Yeah, and I love the idea that we have, just a little bit of information. They seem to they keep hinting at this, this idea of like this great purge had happened at some point. We know that Sabine was on Mandalore in like season 3 of Rebels. I don't think it was 4. I'm pretty sure it was 3.
Yeah.
And then we pick up kind of with whatever Din Djarin's perception is of what's going on Mandalore when we have no in between.
Yeah.
All we know is that the Great Purge happened at some point in that timeline. So I do hope that they circle back and talk a little bit about that. But
yeah,
Corky Kryze is the nephew of Satine and nephew of Bo-Katan. We don't know whose kid he is. I love the fan theory that he's like a love child from Obi-Wan, that there's like this family secret that people don't talk about. I don't think that that's the case, but I do enjoy the theory quite a bit.
Yeah.
But I do wonder what happened to him, because is he considered part of her line if he's not her direct descendant, or if he's like a brother's kid, like does that but I would love to know what happened to him, because that was sort of alarming to hear that I'm the last of my line. I have to track the Darksaber. And that's the other big question, is how did she lose it in the first place? Like, be handed it by Sabine in season 3 of Rebels, and then this is another big empty space. So my assumption is that the Purge is involved somehow. These two events that we don't know too much about. That's my assumption, is that they're somehow related.
Yeah, I mean, Bo-Katan, look, I know I love her as a character, but she is a bit of a hothead sometimes. So as a Mandalorian, she's one of these hotheads, male or female, one of these hotheads, and maybe in a certain situation, bit off more than she could chew and ended up losing the Darksaber to Moff Gideon during this purge. And now she wants to get it back desperately so she can lead her people again and be the Mandalore, which is the greatest warrior and leader of her people again. So, and also a bit of guilt probably drives this thing, which is in that moment when she pulled that knife on Welliver on the ship, there was a wildness in her eyes. And I'm like, yeah, there's this is something deeper. This isn't just leading her people from a noble place. This is also maybe a sense of guilt, or a sense of the fact that she blew it or something in some way. And I think that's going to be interesting, because I wonder if we're going to get a scene where Bo-Katan is going too far, and the other Mandalorians have to kind of pull her back a little bit, kind of get her squared away and what's happening. So I wonder about all of that. I mean, the way she said cult too, the almost kind of like dismissive way she called the Children of the Watch, which is where he's from, and I don't care what religious organization you're part of. If you spent your entire life following it, hearing someone else speak about it and call it a cult and kind of dismissive about it isn't maybe the best way to get a person on your side. So it's just interesting to see this kind of bubbling anger underneath Bo-Katan. Am I off base? Did you sense any of that when you were watching it?
A little bit, but I think one of the things that I really have enjoyed about Din Djarin as a character so far is that he's not so stubborn as I sort of would imagine him to be, as someone who seems very independent and sort of set in his ways. He's very he's not eager to learn, but he's willing to learn. He's willing to listen to other viewpoints and to have empathy for other cultures. We've seen him, he's very, very much displayed these abilities to learn other languages and to connect with different cultures, like the Sand People on Tatooine. That's not even like Luke Skywalker himself had any sort of empathy for the Sand People. And, here's this kind of hard, closed off, literally Mandalorian that is totally open to them. So I love that he seems to have some openness to him.
Yes,
more so probably than Bo-Katan does. I mean, seems very driven in her quest at the moment, which is really exciting to see, because I just want to watch her quest. I kind of am like, maybe we step away from Din Djarin for a minute and leave him on his way in his busted ass ship. But which I'm getting really sick of seeing. I just wish they would fix it. It's getting annoying. It's getting so annoying that it's just falling apart in every scene. I'm just like, just fix it. This is an OCD thing. This is
I was just gonna say this sounds OCD.
Exactly. Yeah. This is like nothing rooted in any kind of reality for me.
Well, look, he tried. He tried to get that Mon Calamari to help him, and it was pretty terrible. Pretty terrible job they did.
Yeah, exactly. Fingers crossed for episode 4 that wherever he's going, maybe like Grief Cargo will pay to have the ship fixed up.
Oh, good point.
I would love to know where exactly they're going because it does look like another sort of sand planet. I guess maybe it could be Navarro. It didn't really look like it though.
Right.
But yeah, I really am like at a loss as to guess what we're expecting to see in episode 4.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. I think it's just going to be another mission. They're all, like it says, all the allies coming together. It's another one of these quote unquote what people think filler episodes, but I think those are adventures. He is this. They've not lied to you about what this show is since the first episode. Every episode is a new adventure that he goes on, but it furthers an overall storyline, and we're still having that happen throughout this season as well. So when people had some issues with episode 2, I'm like, that was fun. Why do we need to have more of a larger story going on in every one of these episodes? It's fun to kind of just chill out and have them go on an adventure. It feels very similar to old school, and this is probably before our time, Laura, but old school Kung Fu, old school Incredible Hulk with Bill Bixby, these old school shows that we had in the 70s. Remember, and Filoni and Favreau are both around my age, so they remember these 70s shows, and these are things we grew up on, and that's the stuff that we understood, those kind of the main overall arc of a season, and then the little adventures that you would go on in every episode. And I'm enjoying that. It's a fun thing to do. So, but I'm with you. I don't know what's coming next. I don't know how this is all going to tie into itself, other than I think there's a final battle with Gideon, with everybody involved in all of this. And also, were you surprised to see how much the Empire is still kind of together and out there under Gideon's rule? Like, do you think there's anybody above Gideon, or do you think Gideon is essentially the top dog of this whole thing?
That's a good question. I would sort of guess that maybe he's the top dog where he is. There's some sort of like region that he's been assigned to.
Maybe,
because I kind of think about after Return of the Jedi, the Battle of Jakku happened in the Aftermath books, and we see a big chunk of the Empire fly off into hyperspace to an unknown destination. And there's like a whole chunk of them that are just like nowhere to be found. They're not in Moff Gideon's realm at all. So whether he's just in charge of like the whatever section of the Outer Rim he's in, or maybe just he's in charge of the entire what's left of the Empire in that sort of region. It's a mystery to me, but I do love the idea that like maybe he thinks he's in charge, but he's like really not. That seems to be a sort of common thing with some of these Imperials. But I do want to point out that something that I noticed, and I haven't heard very many people talk about this, I feel like it's kind of rare to encounter Imperials that have American accents. So many of them have British accents, and we had like
great point.
We had 3 of them in this episode, in episode 3, that all had American accents, which makes me think this isn't going to sound great. But I almost wonder if they're like, are they maybe not the top tier like Imperials? Like they're having to just work with what they've got, and this is what they've got.
when you've been defeated, and you still want to stay alive, you just kind of grab anybody and see if they're willing to do it. And I'm sure they need a job. Maybe this is what you get, but that is so funny. It didn't even occur to me because I was so caught up with the awesomeness that Titus Welliver was in this episode that I didn't even think about the fact that they have American accents. Because you're right. Lucas tended to go towards English accents with his Imperial officers. So very fun. Only Vader, I think, was the only one who had an American accent. Even throughout the whole thing. So
I might be reading too much into it, but maybe they were trying to say something of like having the Americans playing the Imperials, and given the state of the world, I wonder if it could have been a sort of subtle commentary on that, if you will.
Maybe. I wouldn't be surprised.
But it stood out to me right away. It was jarring to hear. I was just like, that doesn't sound right. What's weird about this? Oh, right. Got it. they're not British.
Well, they said "Long live the Empire," and that's the first time I've ever heard that. Is that something you've heard before or seen before in any of the media? "Long live the Empire."
Sounds kind of familiar, but
Okay.
not in anything I can name. But where we are in the Alphabet Squadron books is sometime between Battle of Jakku and where we are in the Mandalorian. We're sort of in that time period there. So we do have other examples of the Imperials running around the galaxy. But I feel like, and I only read one of the 2 books that are out in that series, but it kind of seems like the Imperials are sort of, for the most part, trying to get away. Like they're trying to figure out where the rest of their people are in wild space or wherever they've flown off to. It doesn't seem to be much of an effort of trying to actually like retain control of certain territories. There's some of that, but it doesn't seem like, maybe I'm wrong. I read that book last year, but that's kind of what it seemed like, that it just doesn't seem like it would be worth all the effort to like keep trying to like take over these worlds when this other government is just gaining more and more power every day.
Right. And sometimes it's good to just let them govern and fall apart, and then you slide in. We've seen that before too. Do you anticipate there'll be a Sith Lord at the end of all of this? Like, would that kind of ruin the approach or the vibe that you've enjoyed about the Mandalorian? Because this felt very like grounded, very, for lack of a better term, down to earth, or down to whatever planet you're on. It feels very grounded in that way. If we start introducing, and Jedi got mentioned at the end of last season, of course, but we start introducing the sorcerers or the Jedi and the Sith, it starts to kind of move away from being down on the ground and move now towards more being in space or galaxy wise. And I wonder if that's something they're looking to avoid as they keep going down the road with the show this season and seasons beyond.
I like that word, grounded. I think that's a really good way to describe how the Mandalorian sort of sees itself. I totally agree with that assessment. I do wonder what the end objective is going to be. We know that the Imperials are hiding out somewhere in wild space. The assumption, I guess, maybe what we're supposed to connect the dots is that they're on Exegol or in the orbit of Exegol, and they're kind of starting from the ground out there. I'm not totally sure. It's hard to believe that all of them are out there, but that big old dark side choir in The Rise of Skywalker was fairly large. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they just all skedaddled to Exegol. But
because the Emperor's still alive, Laura. The Emperor's still alive, apparently. Anyway.
Exactly. Sorry. I do wonder where we end up with when it comes to why did the Empire want the baby in the first place? That was where we were in the first season, and that's kind of still the question that's still hanging out here while we're hitting all of these other cool spots.
Yeah. That's the big mystery. I mean, yes, we're discovering more and more about the Mandalorian, but also what is it that the child has or represents? Is it a clone? Is it a Yoda baby? What is the deal here about the child and how that's going to come into play? Because we haven't seen him use his powers much at all this season. And by this time last season, we'd seen him already use his powers a couple times in strong ways. So I wonder if maybe that's going to actually be something they start focusing on in the middle part of this season as well, what his usage of his powers is going to be and what it reflects, because a lot of people are like, oh, he ate those eggs. It's so mean. He ate the eggs. And people forget that he tried to force choke Cara Dune last year near the tail end of the season. So there's some interesting characteristics happening with the child. And I'm wondering how that's going to play out as well as we go forward with the season.
Yeah. And maybe who knows, maybe, here's hoping we'll get another little force choke of Cara Dune. Just asking for it. But I do want to make one point of defense for Baby Yoda in episode 3. I think we got a little bit of character growth from him, I think. And this is just how I interpreted it, where in episode 2, we had him eating these eggs, and I get why people were upset by that. I totally understand. And I get the sort of assumption of like, oh, that's such like a dark thing to have be happening on screen. But I love that then Din Djarin decided to leave the baby with the frog people, and the baby actually got to witness, that process of like new life hatching.
Right.
And I think that was sort of meant to be like a kind of character growth moment for him, because we don't see him trying to reach in and I didn't interpret it that he was trying to reach in to grab them to eat them.
Right.
I think he was more kind of fascinated with the process,
Well, he was
which
stroking the frog. Yeah.
I found that sort of uplifting. And I kind of feel like that was supposed to be this little moment of like growth for him.
Yeah. I'm going to put something out there to you as we wrap up the show here and see what your thoughts are on this. The show is called The Mandalorian. Laura, it's not called The Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, The Mandalorian and the Child. It's called The Mandalorian. So at some point, do you think the child gets handed off and we move past the child? Or are their fates intertwined until the end of the run of the show?
It's really hard to think about them not together. I mean, they're a clan of two. They have their little signet now and everything. So I feel like they really are kind of bound,
right?
By this creed. So it's hard to, and I mean, just the way that like Baby Yoda has just taken hold of like the public conscious. It's like, can you even imagine this show? Like the uproar of people. And they shouldn't be designing the show and writing the show around that. I completely understand that. But I'm just like, can you just write it around me and what I want? Baby to stay. So.
Well, I mean, the point of the whole season is him returning him to Baby Yoda, the child, to his people. So I'm just saying, there's a very real possibility. But I don't think it's going to happen. But you could argue that there's a very real possibility that it could happen, given the logic of the show and what they've presented, that he hands off Baby Yoda to his people. And then if can the show survive without Baby Yoda? I wonder. I think it could.
I have a question for you to follow that up. Actually, new line of thought.
I like asking the questions. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm going to ask it this time. What are your thoughts? What's your opinion on the possibility of a time jump in The Mandalorian, where we actually see Baby Yoda get to age a little bit? He still looks like him, but maybe he actually he's got more of a mature voice and actually speaks, and we have to age Din Djarin 30 years? I don't know. It sounds really old, but thoughts there.
Okay. First thoughts are Star Trek just did that in this season of Discovery, so it would feel weird to see that here. Second thoughts are, if it sounds like Teenage Groot, I get that vision as well from Guardians of the Galaxy playing video games. Teenage Yoda getting all upset playing video games. You're not my dad. But maybe in the last season we could do a time jump where Djarin is older and Yoda comes to visit him like fully grown and whatever, and maybe there's a death scene or whatever where he's lying there, and there's something like that to kind of wrap up the storyline between them two. That I could see happening. Yeah, like an epilogue type thing. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I could see that, but it would be weird if they did a time jump. I think I'd have to understand why. And also, I guess that would, maybe depending, because I mean, Boba Fett's a clone that is aged naturally. I don't know if Baby Yoda is a clone, if it'll age naturally within the species and what have you. So I don't know, but yeah, I don't know. They'd have to present it really well for me to enjoy a time jump, because I like where we're at. I like all the moving pieces, all the mystery, all the stuff that's happening, all the intrigue. I'm enjoying that. And I'd like them to bring more characters in. As long as they make it work organically, I'm down.
That's a good point. As long as it makes sense for the story, and if not, leave it alone, because there's no need to fix what ain't broken, and The Mandalorian is definitely killing it in season 2. So
for sure,
far from broken, in my opinion.
Agreed. Well, that's this episode of The Jedi Way. I think that's a great place for us to stop here. Hope you all have been enjoying the season as well. Let us know what you think about the first 3 episodes down in the comments section below. Have you been enjoying the direction? Bryce Dallas Howard was incredible. I thought from last season to this season, she absolutely leveled up in a massive way with the usage of the camera, with the cinematography that was done there, with the way she directed the show and the way she paced her episode. I enjoyed it so much more than her first season episode. Even though her first season episode was good, I thought this one was much better. And Peyton Reed doing stuff last episode, and we're getting Dave Filoni in a couple episodes. So I'm curious to see. So I'm enjoying the direction of these as well. So let us know down there what you think, and if there's anything that's bothering you about the show as well over the first 3 episodes. We'd like to hear all about it and have a fun back and forth with you all down there in the comments section below. Laura, how can they get a hold of you and find everything that you're doing?
You can find me on Twitter. I am at @shutup_Laura. The show that I host with my friend, our podcast is called Force Toast Star Wars Happy Hour. You can find that show's handle at Force Toast Pod. Our website is right above me that way.
There you
go. You can find a list of all the places that you can find our show. How about you, John? Where are you?
Yeah, well, I'm right here on the Outlaw Nation channel. You can always subscribe to the channel, see all the stuff we got going on here, not just Star Wars content, but also entertainment news content with the Geek Buddies and Mornings with the Outlaw. Also some sports stuff going on Mondays with Game Time, and our politics show, Impolite Truths, on Thursday nights as well. And the Outlaw Nation show. Just had Mark and Draco on this past Tuesday. So if you haven't watched that episode, please take a little bit of time to sit down and watch that. Mark is great people. And we talked about the Gina Carano stuff, talked about the J.K. Rowling stuff. He offered some tidbits for screenwriters and also for people who are pitching comic books, and talked about the upcoming Schmodown Tag Team Tournament, which I know Laura, as a member of Corruption, is keeping her eye on. So there's a lot going on there. So it was a fun conversation there. So come and enjoy all the stuff we do here on the Outlaw Nation channel. And you could follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram as well. Oh, and one last thing. I just got my copy sent to me from my Del Rey for a certain point of view. This is going to be my Sunday, and I already read the first 2 stories. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not picked this up, pick this up if you're a Star Wars fan. It is well worth it. We're all self-isolating. Things are shutting down all over again. So you need stuff to entertain you. Pick that up and have a good time reading it. So, all right. I think that's it, Laura. Yes?
I think that's it. You covered it.
All right. What do we got to tell them before we get on out of here?
We got to tell them that your focus determines your reality. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care.